who runs my entire house, and although he's a bit modest about that, tell us for 5 minutes or so what goes on here, so you've got the chance of being involved as well. Thank you, George.
All right, thank you. And you've done the introduction already. George Neo Maple House. Just putting this right. And this is the third time you've invited us up onto the podium. Yeah, there's a Privacy Act form which can be used for either employers that are coercing employees or for shoppers when they go into a shop. Right, so if you want a copy of that, I think there's a few copies here and there.
What does it do? What's its purpose?
I'll read out the bottom bit, which I wrote up yesterday.
Yeah.
If you're a store or an employer, avoid the trick of taking liability by enforcing what may be unreasonable COVID-safe directives or taking adverse action toward employees. So in other words, when a business owner coerces or enforces these measures, they take on the liability. So it's a bit of a trick, right? A government trick, you could say. You still comply with the COVID guidelines by not imposing any restrictions, as it's none of your business, right? It's actually the business of whoever is trying to come in, or the employee, because it's private information. And that's under the Privacy Act. And the fines that they're talking about putting on people and businesses are impotent anyway, right? So you can actually, if you get refused to go into a store or something, give them a copy of that and they'll read up on it and maybe modify the way they do things. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, thanks for that. Yeah, keep an open mind about things. Do we know what where the word influenza comes from? Nobody knows? It's influence. Yes, that's correct. Right, it was termed hundreds of years ago, and when they noticed that when there was a great celestial event in the heavens, people would get influenza type, or symptoms worldwide, right? And they called it influenza. So just keep in mind that there are technologies these days which can create that now, right? And you get influenza type symptoms, and that could be the mechanism to increase COVID numbers. Okay, just keep that in mind. There are other factors, but we can leave it at that. So what I'm getting at with this, all these things, you know, first of all, the impotent fines and the influenza influence, is that this is all a consciousness issue, right? If you don't have this sort of open-minded idea, then you go down a track of believing what you observe instead of observing what you believe. You can make sense of that, make sense of that. And one of the big illusions, probably the biggest illusion of the centuries, is that westernized economics has defined us as consumers, right? And when you're a consumer, you're one of those greedy little creatures that has to be controlled at all costs or even eliminated, okay? So it sets up the scenario for depopulation. It's not true. Well, you know, we do consume, obviously, but we are also producer creators. Yeah, I think we'd agree with that.
Yeah.
One of the problems, though, is if you're in the big city, you're more of a consumer, right? And the system, the way it operates, is in the city, you're going to be looked after, but you won't have any freedoms. That's the way we perceive it. If you do want freedom, we've got some options, right? There's 3 paths: the angry path. Despite my rage, I'm still a rat in a cage. The middle path: when you know the rules, you can disobey them. Right? How useful is that? And maybe that's what a lot of the stuff that we've been doing in these forums, other forums that we've got here as well. But the joy path is find a piece of land and love it. It will love you back. Right? And that would fulfill, let's call it a divine purpose, right? Because we go out onto the land and we nurture it, and that could be our divine purpose, to explode biodiversity rather than just consume and be dependent on a system of industrial agriculture which is destroying the topsoil, right? Doesn't make sense. So it's a redefinition, right? We're not consumers, we're not purely consumers, we are producers. And that means that there is enough for everyone, right? Now, to finish off, I've scheduled a workshop, a Sunday workshop, and I'm calling it Community Vision. If people are interested, what it does is what I've just talked about. It redefines this as loving, interdependent producer creators rather than consumer slave victims. And it's, like I said, it's a monstrous lie. I've already talked about these points, and I finished this poster with find a piece of land and love it, it will love you back. 100 years ago, 90% of the population knew how to grow stuff in their backyards. These days, what is it, 10%, less? Okay, so simple rejig. It doesn't mean we have to shut down all the industries and tech industries. We're supposed to have a balance of cosmology with technology. Right? There's nothing wrong with technology, but if it overtakes the cosmology, the spirituality, right, we could end up being controlled by machines and by algorithms. Yeah, and the algorithms, we ran a workshop here, or Marie ran a workshop yesterday, and it comes down to algorithms. If you've ever encountered code, it's if, then, else. Right? There's no humanity there. There's no empathy, no compassion, no love. It's either this or that, and that's that. Now, they're already codifying the legal system. So anyway, look, step outside the box and expand your consciousness, because it's all a consciousness issue, right? That's what I'm saying anyway. So you can kick me off now. So thank you very much.
Okay, well, leading from, yes, what I started doing the same there, the next part, which is conscious